What's up, guys? Welcome back. I know it's been a very long time, but after 3 years of ownership and 35,000 miles, I love this C8. I really never wanted to get rid of it. It's a car I really planned to have forever, but just the mileage on a car like this, you can't just keep doing that kind of mileage. So unfortunately, we did have to replace it, but thankfully, it worked out. Because here is the 2021 Lotus Evora Gt. Same year as the Vet, actually, but I bought the car with about 4,700 miles. Done a lot more since. So this isn't a first impression video, but it's an overview, early ownership video, introducing the car to the channel, explaining why I bought it. So let's get in the car. The door open for this. For a Toyota Camry V6, it actually sounds pretty good, and of course, it's a stick. Nice to be back in a stick. It's been a while. I had a manual C7 before the C8, and it was a great car. The C8 was just a much better car. But also the C7 transmission, it wasn't like a fun stick. The clutch wasn't very engaging. The grab point was insanely high. It was tricky to learn on, to be honest. That was my first manual car, but yeah, I'm excited to be back in a new one, and let's go take it for a drive. Obviously, being a Lotus, a lot of the interior is pretty bare, but the quality of the materials and everything, the Alcantara door cards are really sick. The stitching's nice. This wasn't my first spec, but I got a really good deal on this car, and I can't complain. I'm a big gray person, as you can see. My C7 was actually the same shroud gray as that C8. And yeah, honestly, this is a really nice place to be, and 21.8 miles per gallon with no highway driving is actually insane. So that's the benefit of the Toyota Camry V6, even though the Vet is actually better on the highway miles per gallon wise, because it has the cylinder deactivation. It goes into 4-cylinder mode. But yeah, obviously that's not the first thing you're worried about, but as you can see, not a lot of gas in the car. It's only a 14.5 gallon tank. The Vet's 18.6. It is a much smaller tank, but it's bigger than like a Supra, which I think is 12.9 or something really small, or an GR86, so not that bad. This actually does have Android Auto, excuse me, which is pretty huge for a daily car. As we get moving, one of the big things, honestly, I was sick of with the C8. My dad got a C8 Z06 as well, and I've done a lot of miles in the C8 platform. It's a big car. It's a great track car. It handles great, but it is massive. So for daily driving, it's crazy as it sounds, the Lotus actually, it's much easier to put into spaces. It's much easier to get around people. It's just less of a car around you. It sounds insane, but when you just get so used to such a big car, I mean, the C8's longer than like a McLaren or a Ferrari. It's just a big car. Obviously, the Lotus is a tiny car. This is 10 inches shorter, but it's just nice on a daily basis to have a smaller car. The weight difference is actually not as big as some people would think, because the Vet is very heavy. It's 3,600 pounds about, give or take, for a base 1LT Stingray. This is about 3,170, which isn't that light for this small of a car, but it feels pretty light. The hydraulic steering is awesome. All I've heard is that Lotus has the best steering in the world, and it's really good. I can't say it's not really good, and it's a huge improvement over the electric power steering in the C8, but it's nowhere near as good as like a McLaren. The car is cold, so I'm not gonna rev it out too much, but I'll put the exhaust on for you guys. It is a little wet out, and we're on cup 2s, so we're gonna have to be a little bit careful, but you'll see just how insanely well this car handles. We're gonna go to a back road, and honestly, the lap times this car does are so much slower than it feels like it's capable of. I'm taking turns speeds I've taken in the McLaren that I can't do in the Vet, like at all, and I think most of the lap time is the transmission. Not even that's a stick, but I saw someone, I actually drove a manual GT4 recently, and my dad has an i11 Speedster 991.2, and this transmission is just pretty slow, to be honest. It doesn't like being hurried up. In fact, when you're going from first to second or second to third, you want to add a little gas as you're letting off the clutch, which I've never actually done driving manual. I've spoken to my friends. It seems like it's a 50-50 between people that do that and people that don't. But I've never had to do that in the C7, in a Porsche manual, in my friend's S2000, in any car manual car I've ever driven. But I guess the RPM just come down so quick in this car, you have to do it. It's almost like rev match upshifting, which is a new philosophy for me. But honestly, the suspension's really stiff. I heard it would be really soft, but because it's so light, it's pretty compliant. Like, you hit bumps and the car just feels solid. There's no bouncing or crashing, but you do like hop a little bit on the road. You can probably see the front end just going like this. It is very stiff, but it's actually a pretty cool feeling. You feel like you're in a McLaren or some carbon tub car like that when you're not. The car just feels so solid, and the steering is great. It's not, the little inputs aren't as good as the McLaren, but when you're like deep into a corner and you're making corrections or anything like that, it is really good. It doesn't have quite the precision as the 720. Obviously, we're talking completely different price brackets, so for people that might not be familiar with the cars, you might think I'm just obviously the McLaren's better, but Lotus steering is supposed to be the best, and it is really good. It's way better than modern Porsche. I actually test drove a 718 GT4. It would have been out of my price range anyways for buying a car, but it was a really good deal. It was actually out at our McLaren dealership. The general manager was giving me a good deal on it, and I was considering like making that crazy leap. But honestly, this I got a steal on about half the price of a 718 GT4 almost. And honestly, I prefer this. It's a little rarer. I think it looks better in my opinion. I know not everyone's gonna agree with that. I know people are big Porsche guys, but this does feel a little bit more nimble. It has the back seats. I sell shoes for a living, so I do have a lot of shipping boxes, sneaker boxes in shipping boxes, and I need the back seats, honestly. The back seats don't give me quite as much room as I thought they would, because they're not that tall, but I still can fit 2 to 3 boxes back in each seat, and then 2 under the passenger front seat, 2 on the seat, and then 2 in the trunk. So that is more than the C8. The C8 had 2 huge trunks, but they were only big, the front was only big enough for 1 box, 1 shipping box realistically, so not anyone else is gonna have to think about this kind of stuff, but for me the back seats are pretty important. And if I need an emergency to put someone shorter back there, you can put somebody back there. It's not even as big as I'd say in that 11, but the back seats are okay. For people that don't know much about the Evora or the Emira or whatever the Lotus platform you want to talk about, this car basically has a Toyota Camry V6 that's been supercharged by, I think it has a Edelbrock supercharger, and it's been tuned by Lotus. From the factory, it makes 416 horsepower. This particular car has a very popular Greg's Racing Parts or GRP third cat delete. So basically it sounds like the European cars, and it has aftermarket air filter, so it should be making about exactly the 430 horsepower that this car makes in Europe. So 430 horsepower, 3,170 pounds-feet of torque. It should have a slightly better power-to-weight ratio than the C8, but the C8's geared so low, and the dual clutch transmission, obviously, I almost said PDK, but the dual clutch transmission, obviously, it's supposed to do 0 to 60 in 2.8, realistically, probably low 3s. This is probably high 3s, but on throttle, it feels just as fast as the C8 for sure, I'd have to say. I was looking at Emiras for people that are comparing the two. I drove the Emira. For me, the simple equation of, I know a lot of people think the Emira just looks a lot better, so they want it. The Emira has 2 less seats. It has 400 horsepower, so 16 less than the stock. It weighs more. To me, that's just not the ethos of a Lotus. I was originally looking at the Emira. The V6 was supposed to be $81,000 start. It actually is about 99, probably is what the base is going to come out. They still haven't announced it, but it's going to be high 90s according to my Lotus dealer. So I started looking at Evora GTs, and after 2 years of looking, I found one. A lot of deals fell through. Honestly, I just didn't want to rush into anything because I love the C8 so much. Then this deal came, I was in a position where I'm like, I'm really keeping the C8. Then this deal came up, and it was just the right time to buy this. And I am now in a Lotus that almost got hit by a Ford because that guy's not looking where he's going. So we're about to get on one of my favorite back roads, and I'll show you what this car is really meant to do. But first, let's hear that Toyota Camry V6, which is a lot better than you'd actually expect. There is a bike here. Oh, it's a dirt bike. Thought that was a bicycle. I'm like, that guy's moving. So it sounds pretty good. I'm just hoping this dirt bike goes straight and he doesn't hold this up on my favorite back road. He is not going straight. So I'm gonna slow down, hopefully not piss off that GMC behind us too much, but just make some space. Because this car is pretty quick. Left some space for that dirt bike. And probably not enough of this, so I'm gonna slow down a little bit. A lot of it. I'll let you hear the car. I did not slow down enough, I'm learning. As fast as I wanted to, but hopefully on the way up it'll be a little clearer, but you can still see this car is just so much fun. Let's go back up the hill. Let me put in sport. You don't really want to put in race on the road, especially in these old Cup 2s that the car has, because in race you lose, I don't know if it's all of the traction control or just a lot of it, but you lose traction control. Handles so well. 3,170 pounds, but it honestly feels lighter. You do have to be a little careful because again, Cup 2s are only supposed to last 3,000, 4,000 miles, and this has about 5,000 on them now, so it is time for new tires, but I just got the car, so just getting a better feel for it first. But yeah, that's what a Lotus is about. Just for reference, that was my first time on this road in this car, and I was carrying more speed than I ever have in the 911 Speedster, which has GT3 suspension. The suspension of the best race car on the planet. But I will say it's sprung a lot softer than the GT3, so I'm not taking shots at GT3. I'm just taking shots at the Speedster because I absolutely hate that car. My dad actually does have an allocation for a Spider RS coming up, so once that car comes in, the Speedster will be sold. Not a Porsche hater, just to try to be a little honest sometimes. When I said this transmission doesn't like being sped up, I meant that. You definitely want to go slower than you would in like a Porsche or something like that when they're shifting, but you have to be precise. It doesn't feel like the Porsche almost is so good, it almost feels like a gauge shifter, but like you can actually go quicker than a gauge shifter in a Porsche. The Porsche is just every like gear, you know exactly where it is. With this, sometimes you have to force it in, not force into gear, but you have to place it into gear. You have to be more precise, more specific. It's just a more rewarding car. Like a rev match downshift. If you watch Matt Farah's video, The Smoking Tire, he scared me, and I heard multiple people say, because you can't blip the throttle easily, but if you blip, I don't know. I haven't driven the car too hard yet, so I haven't had to blip the throttle like crazy as my water bottle just goes flying from the cup holder. I guess that's critique against the cup holder. But yeah, you can't just blip it. If you just blip it, the engine like bogs a little bit, you could hear it. So you do have to be a little more precise. Every movement, every input, the car, if there's something the car doesn't want you to do, it'll let you know. And that's just fun. A lot of people would say this isn't a daily driver, but I guess I'm just a little crazy because this will be my only car soon once I put the C8 up for sale. If anybody wants a 2021 C8, probably the cheapest clean title. It's never been an accident, but I'm just saying clean title because I don't know, maybe I'll make a clickbait YouTube video about it, but it will probably be the cheapest clean title C8 in the country. There's plenty listed with like 60, 90,000 miles, which you'd think would be cheaper, but they have them listed at like high 50s. They're just a little nuts. A little optimistic, I'll say. So I'll be listing the car probably mid 50s. It's got 35,000 miles. It's a 1LT C8 2021. That's with the exhaust off. I forgot to turn it back on. 4,000 RPM just sounds so good. I don't want to rev it out too much because it's a 35-mile-an-hour road, but I'm honestly loving this car. When I first was driving it, I was a little scared of it. I liked the car. It was a great handling car and everything, but now I'm getting more used to it. I love this car. I don't like this car. It is so good. Every input feels so good. The car feels so solid. And it's not lots of trouble usually serious anymore, like Jeremy Clarkson once coined. It's a Toyota Camry engine. I see stuff go wrong on the forums. I know the headlights crack a lot. This particular car, the seat cover cracked, to hold the seat back if you replace it on both sides. But it just feels so much more special than a Porsche. And I'm gonna say Porsche even though I normally say Porsche because people hate when I say Porsche. But it just feels more special than a Porsche. Especially the Cayman GT4. It's such a refined product. It's a great product. If you want a daily one, maybe that is better for you. But this is just this car just feels so much more engaging to me. For the Corvette guys out there, I love the Corvette. My next car will probably be a C806 when I can afford it down the line. If anybody wants to buy a bunch of shoes to help with that, I'd appreciate it. But yeah, I love Corvettes. The C8 is a much better all-around car than this. But when you just want to throw this car into a corner, it's just, you have so much more feeling into the inputs of the car. Every pedal is more engaging. Obviously, just losing electric steering. That's why everyone will joke about Ferraris and Porsches and Lamborghinis, but a McLaren is just such a better driving experience, modern car-wise, because it doesn't have electric power steering. You feel every input in the steering. The 720 on the track, I was driving at 150 miles an hour, and I never had any moment where I was scared to correct the car. It does whatever you tell it to do. One day I might do a more in-depth review of this car. I don't know why that guy just went so far over for that bike. Oh my god. Almost had a really bad accident caught on camera. Thankfully everybody's okay. But actually the bike is kind of in the middle of the road. But yeah, maybe one day I'll do a more in-depth review. But this was more an introduction to the car, just my first thoughts on it, even though I've now done 300, 400 miles in the car. But it's just such a fun car that's so underappreciated by the car community. They didn't sell new. During COVID, they kind of inflated up a little bit, almost artificially, just with the rest of the car market. But they made 700 Evora GTs total in 2 years for the US. They made 1,500 mirrors already in the US in 3 months. Well, technically more than that because they were sitting at the port, but they've only been legal here since March, 4 months. And I don't know, this I just think will be the more special car. And to me, maybe it's it's because of when I grew up, and I grew up with the Evora when it came out, but to me this looks just more like a Lotus to me. The mirror kind of looks like an Artura, almost a better looking Artura from some angles, I have to be honest, even though I'm a McLaren guy. But this is just the right car for me right now. We'll end the video with a little pull, and then a talk with the two cars. It looks like this truck's not turning left, so probably not getting a pull in right now, but I'll give a little space so we can get a nice run up the hill, because there's some nice turns up there. I'll rev it on him first though, so you guys can hear what it could sound like. Okay, I have to go really slow because he is, oh, he's turning off. Okay. Into a, I don't know what he's doing. That was about 5,800, I think. I wasn't really looking down as much as I could have been. I'm not going to fly around because I don't want to bother this truck, but it's nice of him to let us go. This car just feels so planted. Like that being a 50-mile-an-hour quarter, there's not a lot of cars you can do that in. The McLarens, yes, even more so, because they have downforce too. But yeah, these Cup 2s, even with not that much tread on them, have so much grip. Just a ton of grip. And this car sounds really good, honestly. It's not droney anywhere, because technically this is like a factory setup, so it's the factory setup in Europe, but it just sounds so damn good. And it feels so rewarding to go through the gears in this car. It's just nice to be back in a manual. I really hated dailying a manual with the C7 because the grab point it took, you gotta like, I was paying so much attention at lights and stop signs and everything with people behind me to not bother people, to be as fast as possible, getting off the clutch and everything. And this, the car just rolls so easily, so quickly. You really don't have to worry about anything. I don't know, it's just, honestly, it sounds the same, but the GT in the name here, this can be a really good daily. And it's just so maneuverable. Honestly, I don't have a lot of gripes. The small fuel tank might be the biggest. The lack of infotainment I'm honestly okay with. For Android Auto, I do need to get a USB cord because I only have USB-C to USB-C. But once I have that, this will be just perfect for road trips and everything. I'm excited to drive this down to Florida, even though I'm going to lose some of the great roads up in the Northeast. I'm excited to do the drive. I love doing road trips in the cars. The C8's obviously better for a road trip. It gets better fuel economy, bigger trunks, more comfortable, less noise. But I don't know, I'm loving this car right now. There's not much that can convince me out of it, other than once I'm in the same situation I am with the C8 and I just have too many miles where it's costing my the car's value too much. The C8 doesn't depreciate with mileage that much, but obviously still a little bit. This car just sounds, it's like it's hot saying to drive this car hard. It's kind of dangerous, especially because you don't feel the speed in this car, which is weird considering how small it is and light it is. The throttle guys did give me a heads up that the park brake, well not me, but in their video, that the park brake doesn't work that well. So let's just put it in first and shut this thing off. But they also said the AC doesn't work and mine works perfectly. So I think it's just a common thing if you don't drive these, they need to be recharged, the AC. So yeah, I think the AC is fine and maybe the park brake's fine. I think they might have just had a flawed car. These Sparco buckets, by the way, they're carbon. They are so comfortable. Some of the most comfortable bucket seats you can get. Exterior wise, the car's battleship gray. It's got red calipers. There weren't that many options on the Evora except for the carbon pack, which would be carbon roof. No glass back here, which ruins the visibility. I really didn't want a carbon pack, but they are much more desirable. The key is, I think, out of an old Jaguar. My dad used to have an old X-Gate, and he thinks that's what it's from. I don't know. They're now owned by Volvo, but I don't know. There's no buttons on this key. Just lock on the Lotus. This is unlock, and then this is the trunk, but you have to like tap it twice. It doesn't work the same way twice. But yeah, let me know which car you guys prefer. Honestly, they're just such different machines, but like it's laughable how small the Lotus is here. But I really appreciate if you guys made it this far in the video. Look out for more videos with the Lotus. We're gonna have videos with the new 750S soon. If you guys want to see the spec on that, comment down below. And yeah, let me know what you guys want.